Tom Coltidiano here. Let's put this over here. That's my camera. Let's see, is that camera? I can't really tell. All right, hold on everybody. We're having a little bit of espresso here. Oh, that's not the label side. Here we go. For my espresso fans out there, Danese. It's got a really unique cup. I can't spin it because it's got stuff in it. There you go. Here we go. You need the saucer. You need the saucer. Tom Coltibiano here. Everybody loves Raymond. 360. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our hangout, where I answer as many questions as I possibly can off the top of my head, based on my 9 years of being there for almost every single moment. But of course, there are things that I don't know, and then in that case, when that happens, I try and ask somebody who does know. All right, let's go live over on Instagram. There we go. Now we should be live on Instagram. Back to the stream. Okay, hi, let's do this. Very hot here in Hollywood. 80 degrees. Okay, 80 degrees Fahrenheit. What are you going to do? Hi, Janet. Hello, Mona. In Montreal yesterday it was almost 70. 36 degrees Fahrenheit, rain and snow. Someone forgot to tell Mother Nature. Thank you, Tom, for your wonderful of everything. Brad, this week, yes. Brad Garrett's birthday was, when was it? Was it Monday? And that was a good excuse to post as many photos. I missed a lot. As many photos as I can. Yes, I'm back to another studio just today. Because there's something going on that creates a lot of noise in the other studio. So rather than have to fight background noise, we are back to blue. Less distractions. Hello, Gil. Yes, I hope that. Do we like we really like the other set, right? The other set is beautiful, and it has the big fork and spoon, and that is actually what's going to be for our official podcast when we're doing the two people interviews. I'm looking around. What tea am I drinking? Could I find? Okay, this is courtesy of Deb. What is this that has been prepared for me? There we go. Twinings Everyday Rich and Full-Bodied Tea. Okay, hold on. Oh, this is going to burn me. I can already tell. I'm drinking out of the fill mug. I couldn't. Let me see. Life short, talk with your mouth full. Okay, hold on. Very tasty. No. Let me go over here for Instagram. We are on a tight shot here. Aloha, Bob in Hawaii. Oh, let me have my espresso. So in 30 minutes, I will be much more interesting. Super tasty. Yes. Hi, everybody. Let's say hi. Tom Caldabiano here, writer on Everybody Loves Raymond. Let me see. Why can't the show have a sequel? A reboot? Everybody Loves Deborah. So, I know the reboot comes up a lot, a tremendous amount. First of all, who has everybody seen part 1 and part 2 of the reunion? Did everybody know that? I know a lot of you knew there was a part 1 and a part 2 of the reunion, which aired, I'm going to get the dates wrong, but I know it aired in November and December. It was the highest rated special of the entire year on any network television show, which tells you that people really, really, really would love to have the show back again. But to do a reboot, you would have to have some of the cast want to do it and be free. I know our friend Ray Romano is doing a lot of stuff. He's doing a new drama coming up very shortly. You're watching me think. So Patty, I don't know what Patty's up to. Brad is, everybody's really busy, and so it has to come together. Has to have, Phil. I don't think they'd want to do it without Phil. Phil would have to give permission to do it without him, and I don't think he would do that. Not because he's a maniacal, controlling guy, but just because it is the legacy of the show, and what you don't want is the legacy of Everybody Loves Raymond to be not as good as the first. So, also, even though I know you guys really, really want the show, Hollywood doesn't necessarily want to put that show on the air. Even though you guys, we all sit there and go, wasn't it the highest rated special of the entire year across every network TV? Why wouldn't you want to get more of that? I don't know the answer to that, but it's a really, really tough sale. Do you hear that helicopter? That's a fire helicopter, which you never want to hear in LA, as you know. We have been prone to have some fires. Okay, I'm waiting for that tea to cool off. I did want to talk a little bit about, the reboot question. If it were ever to happen, it would have to be Phil Rosenthal saying, you know what, let's do 6 episodes, let's do 5 episodes, and it'd have to be Ray and Patty or and Monica. Somebody has to be a combination, all in, want to do it, go to the network and pitch the show. And then the network would have to say, yes, we would like to do that show. I know I've mentioned this before. We are doing the Inside the Writers' Room at the Austin TV Festival, May 30th. I think it's 7 p.m. at the Paramount Theater. I'm sure you can get tickets unless it's sold out. I bring that up because we sit there on the panel and the audience loves it, and giant laughs, and usually a standing ovation because it's such wall-to-wall laughter when we're all talking together. And then, someone invariably says, why don't you guys do another show? It's not that a lot of people on that panel haven't tried and haven't even dipped their toe into making another show since the end of Raymond. But the combination, the lightning in a bottle that happens when you have the perfect cast and writers and the network that supports you, that you see how rare that is. So there you go. That's the reboot type of question. That is kind of the answer. Hi, Marie. Someone else has that name. Hi, everyone. Feels like ages since I was here. Have you been there? I don't. Have you not been here? Hello, Lynn Van Orden. Maybe. How are you? So I want to talk a little bit about I showed a lot of the golf stuff last time. I posted. Let me see. Where's my phone? Let me make sure I'm live on Instagram. The often neglected. Okay, let me see. Yeah. Wow. Okay. There we go. Joined. Hello, Tom Caldabiano. Hello, Cleveland. Same crazy weather. Hi, Suzanne Fortunato. Crazy weather. 50 today, 36 tomorrow. Yes, you are welcome. Hello from Massachusetts. Great weather for the Boston Marathon. Is the Boston Marathon today? Leo, not snowy. Please tell me it's not snowing in Toronto. That just seems unfair that you guys have to put up with snow and lose the World Series. Okay, so that's kind of a sore point. I don't know why someone like me would have to bring that up. Someone who lives in Los Angeles. Okay, I see out the window, I see a fire. Nowhere near me, but it's maybe 5 miles away. That's what that fire helicopter is running for. I could not find, also, let me see, let me go back to the program here. Let me see this. I couldn't find my Mets hat. And the Mets, it's not, I have another Mets hat. So here, this is the Mets colors, which is like the inverted of the normal hat, the orange color, and then the blue insignia. So I'm wearing a Manati's Coffee hat. Manati's Coffee Shop is in Los Angeles, great coffee shop. I get no promotional anything from them. I just really like an old school coffee shop. And for those of you that follow baseball at all, the Mets are, what is the word? Terrible. The Mets are terrible, and they spent a lot of money to be terrible. So there you go. I bring it up because, as you know, we might have done an episode about the Mets. All right, the golf. So let me see. I posted a picture this morning from the fight from the author. I want to talk a little bit about that, a little bit about the Bugles. Yes, the Bugles. But I wanted to, so a lot of people brought up about the golf shot that I posted, the aerial shot that I took from, let's see, who is this? It's my friend Aaron. Hi, Aaron. Hey, I'm very good. I'm in the middle of my live Everybody Loves Raymond. Yeah, where is the fire? Yes. Hurry, Aaron, because the audience is bored. Oh, okay. Right on the other side. Okay, yeah. I saw the police fire helicopters. I'll keep an eye out. Thank you for the... Yeah, keep an eye out for the call. There's another one, too, near Van Nuys Airport. All right. I'll be in constant touch, Aaron. Thank you. Bye-bye. Okay, so that is my friend who's an editor. He's editing, what is he? The Last Airbender, something now. And so whenever there's a fire now, anywhere near anybody in LA, you let them know after what happened. And I just saw, who did I see? A Simpsons writer last night who lost his house. So many people lost their homes. Obviously, I don't know if any of you saw the Billy Crystal thing on the Stephen Colbert thing. Billy Crystal's doing a play about losing his home in the Pacific Palisades. Okay, so the fire that I can see is not the fire he's even calling me about. But again, very, very far from where I am. All right, but there you go. I decided to answer that call live. So the golf aerial shot, it's not really aerial. I was standing in front of Ray's dressing room. So when you would go up to Raymond's dressing room, which season 1, and this is a bizarre story. Hold on, I have to take a... So the quotes mug I was able to find. Who is the nutcase now? Maybe my favorite intense emotion. And then Phil's cup is still too warm. The first season of Everybody Loves Raymond, we're at Hollywood Center Studios. The second season, we moved to Warner Brothers Studios, stage 5. But everybody's dressing room, the stage didn't have dressing rooms. So the stages, the sound stages, and some of you have gone to Warner Brothers and visited the VIP, like Gil, who's taken the VIP tour. Sound stages are giant, empty spaces. And some of them are built for a live audience, and some of them are not. But they can convert them fairly easily. The Raymond stage 5, did not have dressing rooms. So the first season, there were those Star Wagon trailers, they're called, outside of stage 5, and you would go into your trailer, which I can barely remember, although I shot a gag reel, and I remember going into Peter's. Wow, I need more. I'm over my cough and everything, but I don't know why. I have to do my shot of honey. Hold on, let me just see if I can. So everybody had a trailer outside. And then eventually, once Raymond seemed like a hit, and again, Raymond was not a Warner Brothers show, even though he shot on Warner Brothers. What's the significance? Friends is a Warner Brothers show. Friends was a juggernaut, stage 24. They had every single, whatever amenity they needed, they got. And Everyone's Raymond eventually had that. So eventually they built a second kind of floor where they put dressing rooms. So all of a sudden, Ray, Brad, Patty were on the top floor, and Doris and Peter were on the bottom floor, and they built those dressing rooms. I'm thinking also classrooms for the kids, etc. Raymond once had lunch with Johnny Carson. And he was talking about that situation where he has to go to the bathroom in a trailer, in his, again, for those of you that drive around the country in an RV, you're like, what's the big deal? But I guess some people would rather have plumbing that goes out. And so Ray was talking to Johnny Carson. That's right, the Johnny Carson. And Johnny had a great story, which when Ray's on here again, he can tell you in all the detail about Ricardo Montalban and what was it called? Fantasy Island. And I think there was an argument about their dressing room sizes with, oh boy, I'm really going to get in trouble. I can't pronounce his name. His sidekick, let's call it that on the show, about making sure that they each had equal size dressing rooms. Raymond can tell you the story that Johnny said, but I thought, what a funny thing. You get to have lunch with Johnny Carson and you're talking about where you have to go to the bathroom and what little things in show business seem to set people off. But that aerial shot, again, not aerial, I'm on the second story, on the what would be the equivalent of a second floor. And the reason the reason I'm hesitating is if you stood on that golf course where Frank and Marie's kitchen were often and looked up, you would just see a kind of a balcony almost, where an open walkway on the second story level that was kind of half of the perimeter of the stage. So when I walked out of Ray's dressing room, I see the golf course, which, by the way, when we came down and saw that, the set dressing people, set decorators, set design, art department, let's call it, they're all in the other department, we were blown away. We were like, oh my goodness, they've created a golf course on the stage. And a lot of people, I see comments from, of course, real golfers, people that are intense about golfing, look at that, they scoff, they judge, they roll their eyes. But for us, the normal civilian who doesn't play golf every day or no golf at all, you're like, wow, that's amazing. So people that really play golf are like, there wouldn't be a tree near the greens like that, and go on and on and on about specifics. It's just like I always say, when you're an expert, whatever you are an expert in that field, most of the public doesn't really notice it. When you see a World War II, a story about World War II, and they shot it in the 70s, 80s, and I have friends who collect old World War II Jeeps, they instantly are like, that Jeep was manufactured in 1952, there's no way it would have been in World War II, etc. But the public, for the most part, doesn't know. And as Phil used to say, every department would pay attention to their department. So the makeup people would be like, this must be perfect. And Phil would be like, yes, but also the story is the most important thing. So if Patty's hair is a little bit off or Brad's, whatever, it doesn't matter. Because if you have a boring story, it doesn't matter how good the hair, makeup, the set dressing, etc. is, etc. But just wanted to say kudos to the art department for making that golf course on the stage. And again, I've mentioned it before, but when people are like, wouldn't it be cheaper to go to a golf course? Nope, it's not cheaper. From the outside, it seems cheaper, and you have to spend so much more to go on location, as they call it, and it's all you can shoot that day versus being able to shoot the scenes and move on. Along those lines, also, I saw a lot of comments about what happens to Frank and Marie's kitchen. They can't disassemble it every day. Well, it's not disassembled every day. It's disassembled if it's not needed. So again, for us, from the outside, a normal person, you're like, oh my gosh, I have to do all that work again. That's what they do. That's what they do on the show. That's why a show costs $1 million a week, $2 million a week, $3 million a week. By the end, Everett Raymond was cost $6 million per episode. And so you have a whole department where you go, okay, we don't have Frank and Marie's kitchen and their living room, so we have to create the interior of an airport. Okay, so as soon as you're done shooting that scene, even so, the live audience is still there, and they yell cut on the scene in Frank and Marie's living room and kitchen, and they don't need it for that night. The set dressers, set decorators, grips, whatever, everybody starts disassembling it while the show is still filming. So a lot of times, for those of you that went to a live filming, you would hear the first AD, Randy Sewer, going, hold your work, please, because those guys, as explained to me by the key grip, time is money. So those guys just want to get out of there as soon as possible. So while Ray and Deborah are having this beautiful, emotional bedroom scene on the other side of the set, these grips are breaking down Frank and Marie's kitchen, which gets stored in, there's a scene dock, they call it. And sad to report, but there's a scene dock. I was at Warner Brothers not that long ago, and there's a lot of scenes stored. Okay, they're what they are is flats. They're called the flats are the walls. So the walls on Frank and Marie's kitchen and living room are just these flat pieces of they're, I don't want to get too technical, but they're basically just wood. Let's just say they're wood. Those get stored vertically, sometimes covered a tarp, sometimes inside, sometimes outside. But the Everybody Loves Raymond writer's room, production office, which I have shown you many, many pictures of, has been torn down. And in its place, they are storing scenes, scenery, flats. It's a storage area now. Very sad to see. I will post a picture for you guys. It was also the production office of Chuck Jones from Looney Tunes, the Looney Tunes guy. Let me see. Let me see if I can find this production office, and then I'll show you. So the first season we're at Hollywood Center Studios, beautiful little old studios. The first 2 seasons of I Love Lucy were filmed there. I have a lot of video that I still haven't digitized, but lots and lots of video that I have to digitize of inside of that quaint old place. That's also where they filmed like Green Acres and all those. They called them, what did they call them? There was a term for all those, Green Acres, Petticoat Junction, etc. They were all filmed there. And that studio stayed pretty much the same. But I went there recently again, and that writer's room, production office, where Everett Raymond was first season, torn down. So they're slowly destroying the evidence of any of the work that we have done, and luckily it's still on celluloid, as they say. Okay, let me see if I can find this. I will have to do it. Here's something else I found, and guys, everybody, ladies, men, gentlemen, I found a video of Raymond talking to a guy. We asked him to make a video with us, and then we asked him a couple more times. And he wasn't what he is now, but he was still pretty hot at the time. And I mean hot, I guess in every sense of the word, although not really a phrase I use. But we drive up in a golf cart, and we go up to him. We go, "Hey, can you say this?" This was for a comic strip in New York, comedy club where Seinfeld started and Eddie Murphy, etc., which is still there. They have a Christmas party. Can we make a video for them? Sure. And it is, you hear me going, okay, I don't yell action, because maybe that sounds pompous. I think I say go. And it is Raymond, and he's talking to George Clooney. And so the George Clooney, Ray Romano video, and then I asked George again if I could use him for our gag reel, which I will find. I will dig this portion up. And just so you know, at the time, it's not like there's a bunch of celebrities hanging out every place on the lot, and you like, hey, you're a celebrity, I'm a celebrity, let's, professional celebrity courtesy. Everybody I know, everybody is just as apprehensive. Should I talk to them? Should I, and there's a pecking order, etc., I guess. But Phil Rosenthal worked with George Clooney on a show called Baby Talk, and it was miserable for Clooney. So much so that he complained a lot. Phil was a kind of, he was not the showrunner. He was a lower level writer beginning early in his career, but he friended George. And so we would be driving, Phil and I, in the golf cart, and there'd be George. And George would be like, Phil! And we'd pull over, and there's George, who at that point is on a show called ER, and he's becoming a Hollywood heartthrob. But years earlier, when he's on Baby Talk, he Phil can tell this more accurately because I wasn't there, but I do know he complained a lot, George didn't enjoy the show, gave a lot of notes to the showrunner, and the showrunner said, in not as clean words, said, well, screw him, let him do pilots for the rest of his life, and they wrote him out of the series. They got rid of the deadweight who was George Clooney. So I had met George when Ray was with Phil, but just like, hey, George, and he would not know me from Adam. Back then he would, because he would see me. But we put him in a gag reel, and at the time I didn't know that he had a reputation as being a really great guy with the crew, etc. So that is something that I have to digitize, along with the footage of the inside of the production office at Hollywood Center Studios, which is now known as Sunset Las Palmas Studios. That is no longer there. All right, that was a very long soliloquy, they call it, monologue, I guess. Let's see. Let me catch up on comments because I always miss the stories. I heard about George Clooney being difficult in his early years, but thanks for letting me know who the producer was. Oh wait, okay. Let me scroll back. This is the problem. Hi Toronto. Yes, yes. They done a reboot, but a sequel could be different. You're drinking out of a kitty teacup that is used in playset, it looks like. Let's see. Part 2. Yes. A blooper show would grab ratings. Janet, so that is a great idea. Now, I also pitched, and you never know what the network is going to say, but I pitched this isn't me going to the network and saying, hey, how about this idea? But when they were doing the part 2, which was December 22nd, which a lot of people were confused and just thought it was rerunning part 1 for the third time, if it was going to be a Christmas special, the problem, I think a Christmas special would do really well if they did clips from all the Christmas episodes and just made a half-hour Christmas special and had Ray and Phil and Patty and Brad sitting there talking currently about those episodes. Which would be less money, and you don't have to build the whole set. Wow, more tea and more honey. I need some honey. Okay, so here we go. Here is the Phil mug. Now I can drink the delicious Twinings every day. Okay. Delicious. And hopefully will keep me from coughing. So the one thing they said about the Christmas special is it's not only for the network broadcast, which the ratings, just the overall audience is lower, but it's perennial on Paramount Plus. So that means it's playing in March and in April. But I'm like, okay, but the Christmas episodes are playing in March and April. And we all know it's not Christmas then. So let me adjust this mic for a little bit. There we go. All right, let's catch up on a couple of comments. Blooper show, yes. Susan Barry, I think the thing was Ray. Ray is going to be on Kimmel Thursday night. Yes, I will try and go to that. When I watch the reruns, I get so excited because it makes me think of all the cast members I get so excited because it makes me think of the cast members. Patty is reading the first section of the Bible for a U.S. 250 event. Hi, Janet. Yes. I'm catching news from you guys. Okay. Hi, Deb. Robert moves back. Window plot. Robert and Amy seen by the whole building. Was that based on a real life embarrassing story from the writers or producers? Yeah. So that story, I don't think it was based on anything. So almost every story is based on a real life experience, but as I've explained in the past, even when you're home, and maybe I don't want to pick on any states, but let's go where I'm from. Maybe you're sitting near a cow pasture in northern New Jersey and you're like, wow, to have the life of a celebrity. Everybody's life is boring out here. Trust me, everybody, it's not the nonstop what you're seeing, especially now with social media. So even though almost every story is started with an inkling of a real life event, you have to make it more interesting for the 22 minutes. So did anybody see? I don't think so, but I'll ask if the writers can remember. Now, let me see, do I have a script? I have so many scripts around me here. I have 2 scripts here. What are these scripts? Okay, Jealous Robert and the Ingrate. So, okay, so here we go. Here is the Ingrate. Don't worry, this isn't the try and stump you. The Ingrate written by Aaron Shore. If I called Aaron Shore up right now and said, Aaron, what is the Ingrate about? And he would go, what is that? And I go, it's an episode of Raymond. He was go, oh, I don't remember. Do you know who wrote it? Yes, you wrote it, Aaron. Let me think. So, I bring that up because sometimes the actor, unless it's a big event like Aaron who recorded over his wedding episode, it's hard to remember what was real. Like Ray and I wrote Jealous Robert together and Deborah's Workouts. I don't remember the genesis of those stories versus Young Girl, which happened very much in real life, or The Lone Barone, which I wrote with Jeremy Stevens. There's a lot of, there's stuff, or The Toaster that happened to Phil. So I will ask about that, whether the Robert Moves Back episode, it's just sometimes you think, and I remember Phil saying this in the writer's room, for the parents, the home, and then Not So Fast, Phil's like, listen, you can't have Robert's life has to get worse. It can't be that he gets the house and they move back and they move, it has to become the worst possible scenario. So if something's going to happen where Robert decides that he and Amy are finally going to do the dirty deed, it should be absolutely everything that could possibly happen bad happens, which makes for interesting television. And like I've mentioned in the past, when bad things happen to us in real life during the show, we're like, this is going to be a great episode because my life is terrible. And then when the show ended, we're just said, well, now my life is just terrible and there's no upside. So why do I have one of my cameras here? Is there a thing? Oh, okay, I was shooting. Here you go, folks. You want to see a beaten up camera? There we go. That is the back glass of my camera. And this is supposed to be rubber. This wore off also. If you guys are watching the space program at all, they're using a lot of Nikon cameras. It's very interesting. Old like 10-year-old Nikon cameras. That's a government thing. Let me not put that there. Okay, let's answer a few more questions before we talk about Buells and Funyuns. Okay, let's see this. Scrolling down, Tom, hi Paula, is it snowing by you there? That's me screening, okay, let me go to the bottom. Holy moly, did I miss a lot. I was wondering if Raybert was based on anything from real life. So Lisa, that was a Steve Scrovan. Oh, I lost the comments. That was a Steve Scrovan script, and I think I remember talking to Steve about that. That was season 3. Was that season 3? Yes, that was season 3 because we were already in the Chuck Jones production office. Because I remember talking to. I have to run back through my memories. That's how I remember the stuff. Season 3. We'll have to ask Scrovan, but at that point I was single and Ray was rich and famous. Not necessarily rich yet, but famous. And I do remember talking to Scro about that script, but we will have to ask Steve. But just as a kind of a backstory, when Ray and I shared an apartment, it was season 1 of Raymond, and for those of you that know, Ray was on news radio the year before, 2 years before, and he was fired after 1 day. So his experience in Hollywood was, well, maybe I can last 2 days. So whenever Raymond started, he's like, I'm not going to move my twins and my daughter and my wife out here just to have to move back. So we'll just see what happens the first year. And maybe we'll last 6 weeks. We had a friend named Greg Giraldo who was starred in a show called Common Law. and he moved out the same week I did. We did stand up like the week before we moved out in Virginia, in Williamsburg, Virginia, and we moved out in end of July, beginning of August, and he was already moving back to New York in November. So he lasted like 4 months. When Ray and I shared an apartment, I was single, and Ray was married, and happily married. And, you know, I say that because Anna, Ray's wife, was very much like, Tom, I don't want you bringing girls to the apartment. I don't want you to, you know, like, and I was like, Ray's on a show that nobody's seen yet. As you remember, we were like 106 in the ratings. So, you know, Ray, it wasn't like it was me and Brad Pitt living there, and Brad Pitt's married. So that was very much a thing of, okay, here's the star of the show who's married and can't really take advantage of being out and about with women, and I could, but I was not famous nor rich. So that's kind of a scenario. So, okay, let's see this right here. So Lisa, I hope that's a great question. Remind me to ask Steve Scrovan. Let me see. Do you think an animated or puppet version of ELR work? You know, they could do an animated version. A puppet version would be funny also. You know, once the scripts are written, but I don't know what the advantage would be of that. And I guess, you know, that's really something very interesting. Now, I think I've mentioned to you that Phil had an idea for a TV series based using animated using monkeys, and it's like a in the jungle old age home. I want to say Phil can get the facts right, but it was a very funny script written with Phil, and I think he was working with a Simpsons writer who probably knows animation. And the stars were going to be two guys, Billy Crystal and Robin Williams. And they pitched it, and Phil said it was amazing. And I saw, you know, they taped the pitches, and Phil was like, it would have been the funniest, like we could have toured with this show, it's so funny. And I think everybody passed except for maybe one network, and they said, well, in 2 years, maybe we can finance a pilot, something like that. So I don't know so what the obvious thing is, and now with AI and like Val Kilmer's family giving the rights to his voice, you could, you know, the one good thing, and I was talking to the Simpsons writer last night, they said, they don't age. The cartoons age extremely well. And so that would be a possibility. That is very, 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 very interesting prospect. Hi, Lynn Van Orden. We know the writing. So I'm scratching my eye because I'm just thinking, let me find out. What you reminded me of is the Mets. Watch this. Hold on. Okay, I have to whisper this so it doesn't trigger everybody. Oh, let me mute myself and then.
The Mets lost to the Cubs 2-1 today.
Okay, the Mets lost to the Cubs 2-1 today. That's their 11th game in a row that they've lost to. They've lost, rather. Okay, so Lynn Van Orden's question is, that was the pain look on my face thinking about the Mets. The show had to go in at 22 minutes. Were we ever short? No, never. Never, ever, ever were we short.
That's gotta hurt.
Alexa was still talking to me. So, now I have to take a sip of tea. I need my shot of honey here. Thank you, Deb. When you would do the table read, you would time how long it was, and Ellen, who was the continuity script supervisor, she would yell out a time. She would say 23 minutes and 50 seconds, 26 minutes, 22 minutes. So by the time the show night came, we would have something called a laugh spread. And so never, ever, ever do I remember Phil saying we're short. And this is how you can tell. in the final broadcast, if they included the opening credits, which is the "They're Coming" or the conveyor belt or Ray spraying with the thing or Jungle Love dance, if that's generally Phil had to cut that for extra time. So the problem was always too much show and too much funny. So yes, that's a good question, but it was never the case. I have to put a shot of honey, a honey dispenser here. All right, let's go. Let's talk about. Let me see. Frank, we about one episode. Okay, let's see this. Excellent question. Yeah, Kathy. The question is, why did they have Robert with such a deep voice in the series? That I think was a professional choice by Brad Garrett. Brad Garrett, by the way, does a lot of voiceover stuff, a lot of big characters. What did I just see on a plane? I just saw Ratatouille for the first time on a plane, and it was great. And I did not know that he was the voice of, what is the guy's name, Gaston or something. I could be getting that wrong. He has so many voices. Brad is so talented, and so that's just the voice that he brought to the character. Phil did not say, "You must bring a deep voice, Brad," because I don't know that Phil knew all of his capabilities when he was hired. Excellent question. Hi, Deb. Season 9, episode 1, The Home. Okay. Was there ever discussion about actually staying in New Jersey for the rest of the series? No. Phil always knew that they're coming back because, it's funny. Just because it's their home and it felt better, and the story arc of them coming back and it causing terrible stuff, that was always going to be the case. One of the things that, even for me, this is public knowledge, but I think Ray bought his parents a house. Ray was a very generous person, and he said to his parents, "Hey, I'm making good money now. Why don't I buy you a new house?" And they were like, "Yeah, no thanks." So they stayed in their Queens house, and I think eventually maybe there was a house in LA, but they're set in their ways. So Frank and Marie moving was a hard one for some people to be like, would they really move? Of course, you have to make it convincing. Could it happen? And they could move. It is possible that with all those reasons, and I think you bought that. Let's go over to Instagram. Catching up on Instagram. Here we go. Hi, everybody. Joining. Yeah, I noticed a lot of people. How did you guys orchestrate the fire part in the Tissues episodes? Why was there only one Halloween episode? Yes, I remember when George Clooney was on Roseanne. I wonder if he liked being on Roseanne. Excellent question. What is used to show the outside of Radio's house when they open the front door? The landscape houses across the street are often not the same. Season 1, episode 1, Frank and Marie's kitchen set up a little differently than it was now, than how it is later. Yep. Okay. All good questions. Let me go one at a time. To show the outside was built on the set. So P.P. Raymond episode, that's on the set. They physically built the outside of the house. The kitchen was different in the pilot episode. Because it was called a presentation pilot. It was shot at Universal Studios. It was very low budget. And then once the show started for real at Hollywood Center Studios, we kind of had the real deal. So they tried to save money at the beginning, which was, a normal thing. The Tissues episode, the burning of the curtains, was used with a special effects guy. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. I visited him. He lived in a hangar. He had a small plane, and he lived in a hangar, which I thought was the greatest thing ever. But they used a gas. It was, I think, propane, and they used a gas line, It was a clear gas line that ran through the kitchen and up to the curtains, etc. So it was a very controlled burn. There were fire department, the Warner Brothers Fire Department people were on the set, etc. So it was a very, very. There are so many rules for a soundstage. It's just like when people ask about Shansky. Was that someone's dog, or did they ever bring the cast dog? It's so regulated that you can't just be like, hey, can my cat be in the episode? It just doesn't work that way. It's just like with children. Like, it's a very specific time, supervision, school room, all of that stuff. So yeah, very, very regulated. Hi, Jordan T. Heath. Any good memories of Paul Reubens being on the show? We loved Paul Reubens. Paul Reubens, and this, I stopped, you're never going to use, the truth will never damp out lies that are told over and over again loudly. Paul Reubens was a friend of Phil Rosenthal's until the very end, when they would Zoom during COVID, I think once a week. Even when he was ill and nobody knew that he was ill. He was on the show. I've told this story. I gave him a ride from our production office, which was the absolute opposite side of the studio from our stage. So that's why you would use golf carts. Golf carts are easier to find a place to park, because parking on the set, on the studio lot, is very limited. Some of the biggest fights I saw were people, not on our staff, but people parked in someone else's parking spot, because they come to work and they have a spot because they're a fancy schmancy producer, and then somebody has parked in their thing and they go ballistic. So I was driving Paul down to the stage, and there's a Warner Brothers Fire Department there, WFD it says, in Art Deco, like cutout letters, very cool, above the Warner Brothers Fire Department opening for where the fire engines come out. And so my Alexa, my something is talking to me. Okay, let me stop. Okay. And he said when they were filming Pee-wee's Big Adventure, they uncovered it because years earlier it had been covered up, and it was just the facade with no lettering at all. And also the thing I was saying about the truth, etc. I constantly read that Ray Romano was outraged by Paul Reubens' behavior, and he would not allow him on the show. 100% false, had nothing to do with Paul leaving or not being able to continue on the show. Ray had nothing to do with Paul not coming back. B, it's kind of Phil's call. Yes, Ray had the power, but they worked. Phil and Ray worked together, so there was never a case where when you read, and I guess I'll talk about this at some point so that it's at least out there. The amount of times I've read it, and then I think there was a time where I corrected someone, and this person, this is probably 4 years ago, was like, it says it on IMDb that's what happened. It's like, okay, but that's wrong. And they're like, well, it says it in the news. I'm like, there is no, it was never said, because it didn't happen. So, but it makes for a better story to say that Ray Romano was outraged by Paul Reubens. And the whole bizarre thing is the Paul Reubens' initial event that made the national news was like, I want to say 10 years before he was on the series. So anyway, that's my memory. And I would see Paul at different parties, etc. And a really, really talented guy, etc. And the irony is this. You have now, for society-wise, you have what happened to him, and then you have all of these celebrities who do unbelievable things on camera. Paris Hilton comes to mind. I'm like, she had this video that came out, and then she's a spokesperson for the. There's a very big thing, but it's a bigger topic than we should talk about today. We should have all of this. Let me see. In the land of make believe. Yes. Okay. Let me catch up. The Mets still have. That's how far back I'm. The Mets still have a potential of winning. Let me see this. Here we go. This. Hi, Anita. Okay, I don't. Let me bring the. I'm going to bring this up sight unseen, Anita, because I'm going to assume you're a nice person. We have very seldom. Every once in a while, there's a mean person who gets into our feed. And what are you going to do? I recently watched the episode where Deborah protested about the snacks at the kids' game. Was this based on a real life scenario? It was quite funny, and I loved it when Ray went berserk and told Dan Castellaneta's character to pipe down about the snacks because he didn't want Deborah to find out about it. So, Anita, that's a good question. That was a Lou Schneider episode called T-Ball, and I think that was based on his real life experiences. Lou Schneider has, oh, that's what I can mention too. Lou Schneider has 3 sons, delightfully nice, now young gentlemen. And I know Lou brought that story in, and I think his real life, Lou's brother, operated the hot dog stand on that episode. But that here's a little piece of information that you will probably maybe only hear here. HEAR, comma HERE. The original person cast was not Dan Castellaneta. It was somebody, a comedian who had a show, and I worked with him at Catch a Rising Star in Princeton, New Jersey, years before I was Raymond. Same place where I worked with writer Steve Scrovan. Wow, and his name just went out of my head. So Jonathan, he has, using squiggle vision, he did a show, Jonathan Katz. So he did a show that Ray Romano did. That Ray, here's a circuitous story. That this is awesome. This is an awesome story. Maybe the worst thing you can say before you tell a story is that this is an awesome story, because then people will say, we'll tell you, Tom, how awesome this story is. Ray Romano won on Dr. Katz a Cable Ace Award. A Cable Ace Award. Doesn't exist anymore. Jonathan Katz, extremely funny stand-up comedian. When Ray won that award, he had it in his house. And that in real life is the award that Ray's real life brother, policeman brother, picked up and said, "Everybody loves Raymond." That's the award from that episode. Jonathan Katz, this beloved comedian, was originally cast to play the Dan Castellaneta part, and this happens occasionally, and it doesn't mean anything because Ray Romano was fired from News Radio after one day. But Jonathan Katz just couldn't quite nail the part, and so everybody loved him as a person and as a comedian, and so Phil had to make the executive decision to go, okay, we only have 5 days. You have 5 days on the show. It's a lot of pressure. So and it happens almost never, but sometimes someone comes in and just hits it out of the park, and then at the table read they stink, and then at rehearsal they don't quite nail it, and then Phil has to make the difficult decision of going, okay, we can't risk this. We don't have the time to get them to be good, maybe in 2 weeks or 3 weeks, because we film in 3 days. So Dan Castellaneta replaced Jonathan Katz on the show. And again, as I said, Ray Romano was replaced on News Radio, and then Ray had some decent success. Okay, so here's a very good one. Let me see. Okay, Umbridge. So Umbridge, why do you say that? Did I miss something in that? I will tell you the backstory of that. Hi, Brian Corbin. That's a question I haven't been asked before. I have a sincere question. Did the stars have chauffeurs that took them to and from the studio every day? That is a great question. So, no. The short answer is no. I think I have a picture. Do I have a picture of Doris driving? Picture of Patty driving the final episode. I don't know if Patty's a good driver. Next time she is here, I'm going to ask her if she's a good driver. I don't think she is. I don't want to cast aspersions, but I'm not sure that she's a good driver. So here, I'll go through them. Ray loves to drive. Ray would drive Brad Garrett is a car collector, at least was, and has a huge interest in cars. Brad Garrett drove every day. Peter Boyle also drove every day. I'm trying to remember what Peter drove. Doris and Patty. Patty had a Lexus, I remember, in this photo, which I'll find in post. Chauffeurs, no. Uber didn't exist yet. Taxi cabs aren't really a thing in Los Angeles. They are, but I never, the amount of people that called cabs versus New York, where you're in a cab every day and you don't even need a driver's license. As a matter of fact, having a car in Manhattan is a big pain. When you actually, it's actually a what do they call it? A deficit, a pain to have it, because you have a whole bunch of things which I won't get into. Alternate side of the street parking, stuff like that. But no, getting a chauffeur to drive them, no. I think so they would get limos for certain things, but the day-to-day commute was, it was a job, and I think I'll go through how you make a whole episode, but you would show up at work at 9:30, and you go home at 6, and you drive home, and Patty had 4 kids ultimately, and I think you also wanted the flexibility. So now I think people would Uber X more, etc. Excellent question that nobody has ever asked before. Okay, let me catch up on questions. Holy moly. Karen Podosnak, is that what you're going to say? Or Potasnak? Or neither of them. I still would like to know what kind of lipstick Deborah uses. It never smudged in those kissing scenes. Okay. Yes, did I mention, I can text, who can I text that will accept my text? So Shelley Woodhouse Collins, it was the makeup person who will know. I can ask her. Or Erin Kruger, I can ask her as well. I was going to make a joke about Patty's lipstick running, but I will hold off. Hi, Deer Park, Texas. Always wondered how y'all came up with that sound that Robert made also in the funeral. He didn't do it in yes, that was the Brad Garrett thing. I don't think Phil coached him on sounds, etc. So Deborah, yes, they drove every day on the freeways. So Doris Roberts lived pretty close to Warner Brothers Studios. She lived in the Hollywood Hills, so her commute was pretty quick. Patty lived in Hollywood, so her was pretty quick. Ray lived I'm giving out all these things because they no longer apply. Brad probably had the longest commute, I'm going to say, at the time. And again, Brad loved to drive. I remember Brad had a Z8. Look up what a Z8 is, because it's amazing that he could fit into a Z8, along with many, many other cars. Everybody seemed to get along so well. Chemistry was good. Were there any ego issues with the cast? Hi, Jack. By the way, I can tell new people to the channel, etc. So, you set the tone. I just saw something recently about, who did I read about? Was it the Danny Thomas show? That there was a lot of shouting? I can't remember. But the showrunner and the star of the show set the tone for the show. And so there was there any shortage of ego on the show? No. But was there ever arguing and tension? Almost never. The only tension there was when later in the series, when it got into money negotiations. Money. That's the only time. But as far as performing, etc., no. There was never, because I've read, again, the people that aren't there, it sounds good that Patty and Peter Boyle went at it because their politics were different, etc. Never once even an inkling of that. It was not, and again, not a polarizing, charged environment like it is now, where the other side is the devil and terrible human beings. It was talking more just about politics. So no, never, ever, ever. And one thing that you would notice is when there was a guest cast, everyone would also be on their best behavior. All right, let's try and play this before. Let me catch up before. Let me see if there's any Instagram. Hi, Instagram people. Let's see, do we have any? Yes, sorry, the comment before. Yes, I have my camera on me all the time. It's very shocking. There's only been one time when even I went to a party at the White House 20 years ago now, and I had my camera. I was surprised they let me bring my camera to this Christmas party at the White House. Let me see. Patty. Hi, Suzanne. Patty was recently on QVC and appeared with Laura Geller, a well-known New York City makeup artist who sells her line on Home Shopping. Oh, good to know. Yes, hi everybody. Tom Caldabiano here, writer on Everybody Loves Raymond. Suzanne Fortunato again. Ray Romano was on News Radio, fired after one day. Bummer. That was a good show. Yes, Ray has since recovered. I do remember he played by Pee Wee in Pee Wee Playhouse. Okay. Okay, now I'm caught up there, and now let me see if I'm caught up here. Okay. Okay, let me see. Yes, catching up. Sorry, I'm just reading through all of this stuff. I just assumed that stars had people do most things for them. I think it's so. There's a sense. Excellent point. I think there's. So I know someone who's not a celebrity who has a Porsche and has a lot of money and is a very nice guy, producer, not a celebrity, and he loves Uber. He hates to drive. I personally love to drive, and so I think there's a loss of freedom. So when you're going to the Emmys, when you're going to that, you kind of have to take a limo, etc. But I don't know. Even this, Norman Lear was at Phil Rosenthal's house maybe 5 years ago, and I guess he was 96 then or 95 then, whatever. He was mid-90s, and he was saying goodbye to everybody, and I'm sitting on the couch with, I forget who is next to me, this guy, and he goes, "How are you getting home, Norman?" And Norman looked at him and said, "I'm driving? Like, well, why are you..." Now, granted, he's wealthy and famous, but he's also 95, so the questions are crazy, but I think there's a sense of autonomy that you think maybe you're projecting that if you're rich and famous, you have people driving for you. But I know that Raymond doesn't enjoy. There's something about losing a loss of control in your day-to-day life. You want the freedom to drive. Okay, let's do this, folks. Let me see. I don't think I've done this. Oh, this is like salt in the wound here. All right. Yeah, I don't think I've done this. But this one you could guess pretty quickly. As I've said, so for those of you who don't know, Tom Caldabiano here, I saved from a dumpster every single episode of Everett Raymond from the wardrobe department. Here, that's the front of it. Okay, let's do this, folks. Okay, this is tough because glare. I don't know who's holding what in front of Ray. I think that's Phil. You can see Peter in the background, okay? So here we go. Ray is always the hardest because Ray dresses in the same clothes all the time, every time. But this is a clue right here. A Ray clue, because you don't see that very often. Okay, let me go back so Instagram can see the full thing. Okay, there we go. Glare-free Polaroid of Raymond. Okay, I don't want to give it away. Let me catch up so that the guesses, because the people guess so quickly. I'm so impressed. Let me see this. Okay, this. Let's see this. Okay, Donnell. Wow, Donnell. Okay, I'm gonna keep going, Donnell, but you get credit. I'm gonna so everybody can know. Here we go. Who is that? Patty Heaton. Is she pregnant? She might be pregnant. Okay, let me move back a little bit to get for Instagram. There you go, folks. Patricia Heaton there. I'm hitting the mic. Apologize to my audio engineer friends. There we go. Doris Roberts. Doris is a hard one to guess by. She wears very similar. She and Raymond wear the similar thing. Okay, here we go. A few more. There's our friend Brad Garrett. There is our friend Brad Garrett. Okay, and let's see this. Okay, this won't help you unless you really know the show. Madeline Sweeten, one of her brothers. Okay, not a big clue. So now, this next one. Okay, so Donnell guessed Big Shots correct. The Kicker episode, Make Out in the car. That's a good one. You know, that is a very good guess. Okay, so now the jig is up. This is as far as I can go. There is a security guard, and there, wearing the jacket. Isn't it ironic that we talked about how terrible, heartbreaking the Mets are to everybody? So here's a friend of Raymond's who is a stand-up comedian, Harry Friedman, who says no cuts. Okay, Harry Friedman saying no cuts. If you watch Somewhere in Queens, he is also in Ray's movie Somewhere in Queens, and that looks like George White. Is that George White who was the writer's PA who got us lunch? Yes, and successful in his own right. Here's the waitress, right? The waitress. Ah, yes. There's a policeman. Okay, and now, these are priceless now. Can you imagine these being in the dumpster? There we go. For our Mets fans, Mets fans know these people like their own family. Tommy Agee, Jerry Grody, Bud Harrelson, Cleon Jones, and then every single Mets fan here is Tug McGraw, okay. There's Art Shamsky also. Art Shamsky. There we go. So this, I'm not going to go through all of them because I still, oh man. Yes, our Mets fans. Okay. Extras. A lot of extras. So there you see, those are all extras that they all had to take pictures of after the Mets. After the Mets at Cranepool, who made Ron Swoboda made the amazing thing. And there's the Mets in their civilian clothes. Bud Harrelson, who went out drinking with me and Jerry Grody and Peter Boyle afterwards. Okay, so now let's wrap it up for today. But, I don't have the canister with me, but I do have to taste. I was given a lot of these, so Ritter Sport Raisins Hazelnuts. Okay, what did we taste last time? I can't even remember what we tasted last time. It feels like a long time ago. I have a tattoo. Okay, this was our first tattoo report. I have a tattoo from the episode. Brad says, it's nice to be important, but it's more important to be nice. You have that, Michelle, you have that tattoo. Wow, that's like, who is the actor in line to see the Mets who complimented Ray on his article? Ooh, I don't know that. Mint with chocolate, Deb. Was that last week's? Wow, it feels so. Wow. Give us a report from the back of the line. Yeah, that was good. Yes, the speeding ticket. Second picture had a note that said diner, and that gave it away for me, along with Ray and Robert in the car. Yes, I appreciate, Donnell, your absolute honesty. Idiot when I'm driving. Carol Nicholson. Yes, all these are great guesses. These are really great guesses. Anita, did I have Turkish Delight last time? I think it's amazing how time is flying. We have been doing this for 6 years, this daily thing. Okay, so let me taste this. By the way, I'm loving. Okay, hold on. Wow, this is a big chunk, everybody. Okay. I have to eat it all. Otherwise, here. See, this is the problem. If I don't do this, I have to do this last. Well, it's just the greatest combination. Chocolate, hazelnuts, and raisins. See, you have to have a sliding scale because Walker's shortbread is delicious on its own way, in its own way. But how do you compete with chocolate, hazelnuts, and raisins? I think I gave it a really high rating, right? The mint last time. I have to figure out the relative scale. I may have to go back again and retaste all these delicious sweets. Somebody has to do it. Highland Van Orden, maybe. Cookies are coming from Van's Market. You should know when you get them. Interesting. And thank you. Yes, that is a chunky, right? Is there a name for that thing? Boy, I'm going to give this like an 8.5, but it's so good. I think I gave the mint a higher. They're really good. I want to say healthy is very healthy, but hi, Camille Dorothy. Your father loved that episode. I love that. Turkish Delight was last week. Thank you, Dead Peg. By the way, now I watched that clip. Everybody was talking about it. I'm not saying they were shaming me about not knowing Turkish Delight from the book and the clip, but I didn't, and I actually enjoyed it. And a lot of people hate it. It's very polarizing. I've learned a lot about the Turkish Delight. Yes. Michelle, you got it tattooed on your arm. That was very nice. That's a good, yes, that is a very good little thing. All right, sorry, not little thing. A nice sentiment to live by. We are very short on, it seems, right, when you find someone who's nice, you like gravitate to them, hopefully. And it seems like it's always a battle in life to find nice people to hang out with. See, this would have helped me with my cough. I should have been taking those. My fault. Next time. All right, final questions, everybody, and then we will see you again next week. I love visiting with you guys. We'll be back in the studio next week, hopefully. Yes, the guy wearing the jacket. Okay, yeah, I don't know the actor. I'll find out the question with a bunch of question marks. Wait, did we find out Deborah's lipstick? I will text people and they will get back to me that question. Let me do a screen grab. It's this, yeah, okay, screen grab gotten. And then finding here, I'll find out. Is it by the way, there might be a show business lipstick that doesn't rub off, right? Is that possible? Because what you're talking to, the magnitude of my ignorance about lipstick is really, really impressive. So that might be, so the hair and makeup people specifically, maybe Aaron Kruger right now or Shelley Woodhouse Collins, if they're watching me, are just rolling their eyes, yelling at the screen. They usually yelled at me in person, well, more Shelley. Aaron was always very nice. Anita, yes, I tasted Turkish Delight and I loved it, and I had no clue what was coming. I had no clue that there was a gelatin, rose, whatever gelatin. That's how, it's funny because we're talking about bugles and Funyuns. When you project your knowledge onto other people, you're like, how can they not know this? I never heard Turkish Delight in my life. I'm sorry if that showed off my ignorance, but and so when I bit into it, I was like, whoa, wasn't expecting that. Hi, Anita John. Yes. Anita says, I would love to know all of what was in Marie's lockable drawer in the kitchen. Yes, that would be a fantastic thing. Let me see. Remember the left prints on purpose. Yes. Sucrets and Ray's diary, that's a good one. Depending on what they need, yeah. We will do lipstick talk. Let me see if I can get Shelley to chime in or Aaron to join. Aaron's joined already once before, but wouldn't you rather hear it from them than from Tom relaying information, etc.? All right. Everybody, thank you for all of your nice comments. Thank you, everybody. Again, I always say thank you for answering when other people have questions. I really appreciate that when you jump in, because you guys know as much as anybody about this show now at this point. Those of you that have joined me since the very beginning. Suggestions for snacks. I'm taking all suggestions for snacks. I have my mailing address on the Facebook page. You do not have to send me anything. I'm just telling you, if you're like, I really want him to try this, you're welcome to send me to that mailing address. Thank you, Deb, for this everyday Twinings tea. Saved me from coughing 27 times. All right. See you guys all next week. And let me know if there is a topic you want me to discuss. In the meantime, I'm going to try and find that George Clooney. What do you guys want to see, the George Clooney clip? It's a very young George Clooney talking to a very young Ray Romano. So, all right. Have a good week, everybody. See you next week.